Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Madcapper and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends and another in our series of I Built Them So You Don't Have To. As if it wasn't bad enough building Tashada, I had to open up my big mouth that same stream. The same stream, it's the infamous lit stream. I said I would build Woad-Painted, so why don't we back to back? Let's just rip the band-aid right off. Without further ado, let's talk about Woad-Painted. Woad-Painted is a Spirit Affinity Epic HP based champion of the Barbarian faction, and much like Tashada, has been widely regarded as one of the worst champions in the game. Let's talk about her stats. 815 HP, pretty okay for an HP based champion, not top tier. I kind of want that over to be 20k, but it's pretty close, so something we can definitely deal with. Attack, defense, who cares? Speed 92. Unfathomably and ridiculously low. Crit rate 15. Crit damage, there's that 50%, which scares me because it means probably not going to do damage, but we're going to give it a try anyway. Resist at 45. Her kit attacks one enemy, has a 75 bookable to 100% chance of placing a block cooldown skill, debuff for 2 turns. Damage is inflicted as proportional to this champion's max HP, which it is damage based on HP. I don't know why they have to put that in there as well, but okay. And has, of course, that block cooldown skills is actually a pretty good ability. Her A2 5-turn bookable to 4-turn removes all debuffs from the champion, then fully heals this champion, places a 30% reflect damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. And then her A1 attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 25% chance of placing a block cooldown skills debuff for 1 turn, and that is bookable to 30%. So let's take her into the dungeons and see if she can be a little bit more impressive than the last one, shall we? Here's our test team. Pretty much the usual suspects. We've got single target nuker, so we're going to compare her single target abilities to Phoenix, to our good friend Knight Errant, and Phoenix. 44, 181 speed, 228 crit damage in Savage, and Knight Errant, who is sitting at 241 crit damage, 3948 attack, but of course has that extra ability on his A3. Our Rotos, who is our kind of our de facto single target nuker, 4930 attack. He lost a little bit of attack in my last set of regearing champions in favor of getting my ethos above 6k. So sorry, Rotos, you lost a bit, but you do have 278 crit damage. So I did give you more crit damage out of it. So I mean, you're still my bae. And of course, Woad-Painted, who of course we'll go through it in more detail, but she's sitting at 63,000 HP, 239 crit damage. Let's take her in here, see what she can do against the horde. Okay, good. Now let's slow things down. So her A3 is attacks one enemy. This is actually a really nice ability. I will say that lock cooldown skills and 92,000. That's a pretty good A3 hit. She's in Relentless, so she actually gets an extra turn. We'll see her A2 right away. That's fine. We'll just pretend that didn't happen. We will get an A3 out of Rotos here, 103, so not too far off in damage. And then we'll get Phoenix here, all right, 85. So they're all pretty comparable, and this will not be comparable. He hits just much harder. That extra 70% when he's at full HP. So there is our damages. His is going to be off the chart, but 144. She hit twice. But she hit her A1 as well because of that Relentless proc. But I think she was at 90 something and change, right? So not bad, actually. Pretty good A3 for damage. Especially considering I could probably have pushed her HP much higher, but I wanted to get her in that Relentless gear. I felt like getting her turnover to get that chance to block cooldown more often, because she's only a single target, would be the chance of her being any good whatsoever. So let's replay it again and check A2s. I don't feel like that's a wrong way to look at it either. She is a single target nuker only. So this is going to remove... So this actually doesn't do anything. I forgot. We don't have... She obviously doesn't have anything, but this will give her reflect damage. We'll just, again, A2. A2. Like, I mean, I don't... This is probably going to be more for Doom Tower Faction Wars Arena if you were to bring her under there, that A2. Being able to full cleanse herself and put up a reflect damage. Maybe the Fire Knight in a pinch. She is strong affinity against the Fire Knight. We'll probably put her in a Fire Knight team just to see if we can do something. I know it's only a 2-hit, but the reflect damage does count as a hit as well. So if that thing does get closed, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it to you guys. Maybe, maybe not. We'll run her through Ice Golem. Use your like. The problem is that no one's building a team to have to go through opening and closing the Fire Knight. You're grabbing Allure, you're grabbing Lysandra, you're grabbing Sylar in a pinch. Just someone to control that turn meter, is whoever you can to control that turn meter, rather than letting him close that shield again. So, but that reflect damage will help. It's only a single person, so it's only one extra hit. So I wouldn't call it amazing. She's only a 2-hit A1. Let's do this. Just do her A1 here, and then I'll actually probably run her in a team in this, because that lock cooldown skills can actually come in handy on these runs potentially. So we already saw it once, but let's just see it again. We'll do it here. 25, so like just about 50,000. Not too bad. When you get Rotos, 50, so about the same. Phoenix will not be about the same. He's going to be 120, nearly killed her. And then his hit 50. So you're looking at fairly consistent numbers throughout them. Phoenix has that. That's what makes Phoenix so good, by the way. That's his A1. That's his A1 counterattack team, right? If he's using the passive retribution, those sort of things, that's gonna hit, and it's gonna block revive. So that's a crazy thing, you know. But they all hit for around that same damage. I mean, he did the kill shot, so it's not showing his full damage, but damage wise, not bad. With that A3, let's put her through the Ice Golem before we look at her kit. We'll see what it can do, and then we'll put her in Faction Wars and see if it's any use there. My last video already had 2 Barbarian runs, so this will just follow suit in that same ilk and see if it makes any difference. Here is my Ice Golem 20 team that we're going to put in there. See what kind of see what they can do. I think Woad-Painted is going to be of some help here. Not a huge amount of help, but her block cooldown or her lock cooldown skills is going to be very helpful in the waves against the Terror Beasts and Drake, probably Draco, because they love going after him first. And then on the bosses, on the ads, I think it'll be very useful. So we've got a little bit of everything here. Stag Knight's an absolute double S tier in this dungeon. So is Phoenix. And of course Royal Guard, so long as he doesn't get us killed, which is why I'm bringing in a fairly stout Blind Seer, so we should be fine. So let's go through this run. I'm going to disappear, and then we're going to do the run, and I'll be quiet so we can speed it up. Honestly, not the worst. In a pinch, absolutely useful in this dungeon. Her block cooldowns skill debuff is actually really good because those ads. I mean, I don't know if you guys were doing this. I was yelling at the screen so angry that every time someone would kill right before Phoenix's turn, someone else would kill. And then the one time he was about to get the kill shot, he left like a sliver of health. Finally locked one of them when it really didn't matter anymore. But so some RNG would definitely get this time down. It's not pathetic, but it's not necessarily a really good time. I would like to see under 2 minutes from an epic team on Ice Golem, and that would make me feel good about the team. But she definitely helped. So if you built her out anyway, you could insert her into your Ice Golem team, and it certainly wouldn't hurt you and would at least marginally help you out in the battle. So why don't we do this? We're going to take a look at how I built her out, and then we'll put her through Faction Wars, and then we'll get my final thoughts. Here is my Woad-Painted, and I could have gone for more health, but I didn't. Based on going for more damage, I went with the crit damage gloves and speed boots. And we did try to get, like you see, a double HP roll, single HP there, double HP. So we did try to get some there. Now we also want accuracy to make sure she could lock out champions, and crit damage here and a double HP here. Didn't use any glyphs on this stuff. This is all new gear that I don't use, except for this one here. I don't know how this escaped me. It's a triple speed roll, and it's not currently sitting on one of my Valkyries. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but it was sitting on, well, Tashada from the last video. I don't know if you noticed that I had that, but her overall stats, 63, 854 health, 190 speed, crit rate 100, crit damage 239, 222 debuff accuracy, and it does say that attack is also part of her her hit set. But again, I don't know how the modifiers work on that. I don't know how they determine the attack ratio here. So I don't know if it can't be 1-to-1 because that would make no sense. Otherwise, why bother? But my suggestion is anytime you see that, just pick the primary that they are, like in this case HP, and just use that. Don't the extra stuff. Just if it happens, it happens. If you have a really good 60% HP chest that has a double roll and attack, here you go. There's your champion to put it on. As far as her masteries went, we went Helm Smasher. I did go, because we put her in Relentless gear, I did go with this, figuring that she would use her default skill. And because we have that lock cooldowns, I want the chance to extend. And because her A1 isn't 100%, I wanted the extra 5% chance for it to land. So that's how we went with with her masteries. Final thought or final hits. Let's go to the to Faction Wars and see how she can do and help the team out there. Here we are in Faction Wars, and we're just going to do, that might be fresh in your mind, the Kalia and Tashada runs of just not when, very recently. For me, it's about an hour ago. But for you guys, probably 3 days ago. So we're going to use the same team here. I just want to make sure that I didn't steal any gear in building out. It's the same gear as what we had on for the other two. So we're going to put her through here, see what happens. unfortunately, she's not much better. And it's something that I noticed. First of all, again, she's not doing a ton of damage because she doesn't have any AoE abilities to support the rest of her kit. She certainly could handle herself. She was doing okay damage single target. I thought that her lock cooldown skills would be helpful against the boss. And perhaps if the rest of my team didn't have, like, Scantra does so much to stop the enemy from doing things. Her cleanse definitely worked for herself on in the second round. But at the end of the day, that's the exact same speed as what Tashada had done. Because though Tashada did less for the team, she has a 20% speed aura, whereas Woad-Painted doesn't. And therefore, she's not even helping in that manner. And those lock cooldowns, I would have to rewatch the tape, but I feel like they were being ignored because I had locked down the one on the right. I can't remember her name. She's got the speed buff. And then she used it. So you're locked down, you use it, now the cooldowns are not resetting. They're not dropping down. That's the whole point of it. And then she locked her down again. So I'm assuming it's a 3-turn cooldown on that speed buff that the right, well, facing, I guess, their left, had. And she put it, then we were locked her down, so that'd be 1 turn, so it's still 3 turns, then it went off, so then it'd be 2 turns, and then she reapplied it for 2 turns, and then she used it after 1 turn. So it seems to me that she got the regular 3-turn cooldown and then used it again, even though she was locked out for 2 of those 3 turns, and the cooldown should not have been going down by 1. I could have seen that wrong. If that's the case, then it's broken, needs to be fixed. And Woad-Painted would definitely be very useful, because not allowing those two to heal, you've got Sinesha there who's got heals. She's got a lock skill against you, those sort of things. You can stop that from happening. And then that buff, and I think there's a heal on the other side as well. I can't remember who that, for the life of me, the champion's escaping me. But so there's my problem, is that if that's broken, her one thing that she brings to the table is useless. But in both cases, I think overall she's going to offer you a steadier, more reliable run than Tashada would if you don't have any other options. But again, I think she's just garbage at the end of the day. I think she's more useful, but not insurmountably so. I think she does a bit more damage. She her self cleanse is a self cleanse, so who cares really? And the lock cooldown skills is at least bringing something to the table that'll help the rest of the team. I did notice that the AI is stupid, so she would use her A3 to lock out someone and then attack that same person with the A1, where that the person's already locked down. You have to go to the next one and lock them down, which can only be fixed manual. AI, artificial unintelligence, it's AU, frankly, which is also Australia. Deegs. Just a weird correlation. I'm just kidding, guys. I love you guys. So there you go. Let's go to final thoughts. My final thoughts on Woad-Painted is kind of disappointing. I want to like her. I know her kit isn't amazing, but I feel like when properly tuned to a team, you can really make use of the fact that she's got not 1, but 2 skills that lock cooldown skills, or block cooldown skills. So once an enemy uses that skill, it won't reduce cooldowns until that's off. And the fact that she can reapply that with this here, which is a 1 turn. So really, you can lock someone up for 3-4 turns if you time it right, if you have it done properly. The AI isn't smart enough to rotate people or decide who's the greatest threat. It did it twice. It did it in Ice Golem, where it would lock out the Draco, but didn't lock out one of the Terror Beasts. You need to lock them out. You need to lock them out. That shouldn't. The AI has to be smart enough to know that it's already got this skill on it, so move on, and it doesn't. So that's an unfortunate piece, especially when it's a single target. Her kit, it's not her kit. This annoys me because the reflect damage, I've said it a million times, is useless. You can in very specific scenarios get it to kill very high nuking champions, but that is so niche. And honestly, it's 30%. War Chiefs is 60%, and it's hard to get his to do anything. It makes it even harder for her. But at least she is an HP champion, which means you can do her squishier with more HP, which means she can lose more health, which means it's going to reflect more damage. So keep that in mind. If you somehow want to try to use reflect damage, give them as much HP as possible, as little as defense as possible. You want them to lose a ton of health, because 30% of that's going to be reflected back onto the wearer. So just as a friendly reminder. And then her A1, yeah, again, the block cooldown skills. In watching it, it worked. In watching it, this kit actually works really well. But in function, it doesn't. It didn't do anything. It didn't make the run quicker in Faction Wars. It had some limited usability in Ice Golem. What I would believe is, if you're an early enough game, in the early enough game that you're talking about 4-minute runs in Ice Golem, 4, 5, 6-minute runs in Faction Wars, where you can actually turn the tide of a battle based on locking out skills, then definitely Woad-Painted is a niche option for you. But for the vast majority of you, she is hot trash. That said, I think she's definitely about 12 scales higher than Tashada. I think her kit is way more useful than Tashada. On manual, especially when you are picking the targets, I think she becomes a at least feasible champ in Faction Wars, especially Faction Wars 21, where I'll have to look into what happened there, but it felt like it wasn't affecting the cooldowns properly, but maybe it was just me. I wasn't paying attention. Being able to stop the ads from using their skills multiple times is a very useful event, I would say. Being able to cleanse yourself is at least moderately useful. Yeah, she's a niche buy, but for 90% of you, it's probably just keep her in the vault. As for how I would fix her, well, there's plenty of ways. Let me count them. First off, make this an AoE. Seriously, what's wrong with having a champion that has lock cooldown skills for 2 turns AoE? I don't know. Tell me. Get rid of this attack thing. I hate all of them that have that. Get rid of it. Are you kidding me? Just get rid of it. Just make it on HP and make the modifiers appropriate so that we know what the heck it's about. I don't know what this means, because it's already damage based on HP. Does this mean it's even more? I don't know. Or if this was just the olden days when you thought people needed to see it as well as see the damage based on. Yeah, to me, I would like to see it in AoE. Maybe you don't, so that's fine. But that to me would make her useful. This here, I would make it an AoE. This is something that could be useful for the early to mid game Fire Knight, because finally you have a champion that's got reflect damage, that's strong affinity against the Fire Knight. But if you are still having to use counterattack or reflect damage to be able to open the Fire Knight shield, then this doesn't really help on herself. So please give this an AoE. Why not? Removes all debuffs from all champions and then fully heals this champion and puts a reflect buff. Would be really cool. I think I'm probably asking too much, but at least make the AoE reflect damage so that she's useful in Fire Knight for those that are struggling to get through there. Here is a champion who's Spirit Affinity that can help you get through level 20. Because although we are getting level 25, I have to assume that those level 25 dungeons will be part of the second series of missions, which means the Arbiter missions will still require level 20, which means you still have to do it 10 times on auto, which means she would be actually useful if it was an AoE. And finally, this one here, give it 3 times. As you can tell, so fine, keep this as a single turn. I'm not going to argue it. She might be too overpowered if it was an AoE. Make this a 3-turn cooldown, AoE reflect damage, and make this a 3-hit, and suddenly you have a Fire Knight champion. You have a champion who's strong affinity with a multi-hit A1 and useful A2 against the Fire Knight to help those in the early to mid game finish it. That's what I would do to make her useful. It still would make her only useful there. It wouldn't overpower her. It probably wouldn't make her much of anything anywhere else. Possibly it would make her a little bit better again. You could put maybe Giant Slayer on her for Faction Wars 21. But overall, I don't think it would make her part of the meta, but it would at least make her a usable champion for those struggling in Fire Knight. So those are my thoughts on her. What are your thoughts? Woad-Painted, is she any good? Do you plan on using her? Do you think the changes that I proclaim would be enough to make her useful? Man, if that A3 was AoE, I think a lot of people might think twice. But then again, Lugan has that sort of, and he's not exactly usable either. So I guess it all depends. But either way, as she stands now, she's not very usable. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you all stay safe out there, be kind, and we'll see you in the next video.